Someone has decided you think you're better than them. Maybe they said it to your face. Maybe you just felt the temperature in the room shift and you knew. And here's the part that stays with you afterward. You didn't do anything to earn it. You stayed quiet a beat longer than they wanted. You didn't reach for their approval. You held one small boundary without stacking 3 apologies in front of it first. That was the whole crime. Something in their face closed, and somehow you were the one who walked out of that room labeled the arrogant one, and you still aren't sure how the trade happened. So, here is the sentence I want you to carry for the next 20 minutes, before we've proven a word of it. You're not arrogant. You're just fluent in something most people never learn to read. What follows are 7 signs that the thing people keep filing under arrogance is actually a rare psychological type. One Carl Jung mapped in detail long before anyone called it being an empath. Number 6 unsettles people the most because there's nothing they can do to earn a reaction out of you. The last one, they never get to see at all. Let me start where you actually are, because you are not naive about this. You've heard the words. Intense, aloof, hard to read, stuck up. Somebody has sat you down, gently or not so gently, and told you that you come across like you think you're above people. And I'd be lying if I said you've never turned that over at 2 a.m. and wondered whether they had a point. Some nights the screen is the wrong place for this. If you'd rather just listen, Surreal Mind is on Spotify now. The words "in the dark," wherever you are. Links in the description. Because here's the honest part. The advice they give you afterward isn't crazy. Smile a little more. Make more small talk. Ask the follow-up question. Don't let the silence sit so long. Seem more approachable. Warmth helps in a room full of people. Nobody's lying to you when they say that. So maybe you've tried it, filled the pause a little faster, laughed a little sooner than the joke earned, and it works a little for a while. It also feels like acting, like you're managing an image of a person instead of being one, and you can only keep it up for about an hour before you want to go home and feel things at the depth you actually feel them. So, explain something. If you're really arrogant, why does none of it feel like superiority from the inside? Real arrogance is comfortable. It doesn't rehearse, and it doesn't lie awake auditing itself. What you feel is closer to the opposite, the quiet exhaustion of working harder than anyone in the room just to be left alone long enough to think. If you've quietly wondered whether the stuck-up red was actually true and you couldn't rule it out, do something for me. Comment, "I checked myself for arrogance and only found tired," because that sentence is the whole gap this video lives inside, and by the end, you're going to know exactly why it was never arrogance you were carrying. Here is the flaw in the whole picture. The people reading you as arrogant are not lying about what they see. That's the part that trips everyone up. They see something real, and they name it the only thing it resembles. The problem was never their eyes. It's the instrument. Almost everyone calibrates trust by reading visible signal. The filled silence, the matched energy, the quick laugh, the small effort to win the room over. That's how people tell, fast, whether you're safe. It isn't shallow of them. It's just the system nearly everyone runs, and it's built entirely out of signals you were never going to send. That mismatch has a name, or at least it does now, because it's what I call the legibility gap. The legibility gap is the distance between how a certain kind of person experiences themselves on the inside and how a completely different kind of person is built to read them from the outside. Nothing is wrong with either one. They're just running incompatible software. And in that gap, an absence of signal doesn't get read as neutral. It gets read as a verdict. And this isn't me putting a modern spin on Jung. He saw the exact misread. Describing this introverted type in Psychological Types, he wrote that to outsiders, This person seems prickly, unapproachable, and arrogant. He used your word. 100 years ago, he was already naming the thing you get accused of, and filing it not as a character flaw, but as a predictable optical error other people make about a specific temperament. So, because the read was never really about your ego, it has to be about something structural instead. Jung mapped 7 pieces of that structure, decades before the word empath existed. Here's the first. Sign 1. A silence opens up in a conversation, and you let it sit. Not to punish anyone, not to make a point. You let it sit because you're actually still inside the question, still turning it over, and you'd rather answer in a minute with something true than in 2 seconds with something automatic. To the person across from you, that pause is not empty, it's loud. Most people treat silence as a gap that means something went wrong, and the second it opens, they move to fill it, usually with the first thing that reaches their mouth. You don't have that reflex. To you, the silence is full, it's working space. To them it reads like a verdict is being written, and they don't know what it says, so their nervous system writes the worst available version for them. He must think this isn't worth answering. She must think she's above this. That is the legibility gap in its simplest form. You produced occupied, thinking silence. They received a judgment you never made, and because that first quiet got read as a verdict, watch what happens to the next thing you don't perform on cue. Sign 2. Something happens that is supposed to get a rise out of you, a jab, an escalation, someone leaning in, pushing, fishing for a reaction, and you stay level. You answer from the thinking part of your mind instead of the reactive one, because you learned a long time ago that matching someone's heat almost always makes the fire bigger. From the outside, that steadiness gets one reading, and it's rarely the true one. They decide you don't care. They decide you feel nothing, or worse, that you feel superior to the whole exchange. Here's what's actually happening. There is no reactive spike for them to see, and an absence, again, gets filed as contempt instead of read as composure. Jung watched this in his own consulting room. In Psychological Types, he wrote that this introverted type is apt to appear awkward, often seeming inhibited, and that, by a certain brusqueness of manner, or by his glum unapproachability, he ends up causing what Jung called unwitting offense to people. Sit with that phrase. Unwitting offense. Offense you gave without giving it, without wanting to, without even knowing it landed. That is not the signature of an arrogant person. Arrogance is deliberate. This is the exact opposite. It's harm you never authored, read off a face that was only ever level. And because your steadiness keeps getting translated into a feeling you never had, the same thing happens to the one move that should read as care. Sign 3. Sign 3. You skip the small talk. Someone asks how you're doing, and instead of running the social handshake back to them, you ask the one real question they weren't braced for. Not to corner them, because your mind genuinely wants to go somewhere true, and the weather bores you. And you feel their energy change. It gets careful, guarded, like they've been caught out. Later you hear it back through someone else, intense, a lot, kind of much. What felt like ordinary curiosity to you registered to them as exposure, as being seen a layer earlier than they'd agreed to. Because small talk isn't really about information. It's a signal that says, I'm safe, I won't go deep, I won't ask for more than you offered. When you skip it, you skip the reassurance too, and some people read the missing reassurance as a threat. Now stop for a second, because your model is starting to crack, and you can probably feel it. None of these 3 is arrogance, not one. The unfilled silence, the level response, the real question. Every single one of them is just what happens when you stop performing, and the people around you have no idea what to do with someone who isn't. The belief you walked in with, the quiet suspicion that if this many people read you this way, some of it must be true, just failed to explain 3 things in a row that had nothing to do with ego. So what's actually assembling in its place is the legibility gap. And I want you to notice that you're not sitting here building a defense of yourself right now. You're building an accurate description of how you work, maybe for the first time. Comment: I was never arrogant. I was just unreadable. And if this is already putting words to something you've carried for years without any, subscribe. That is the whole reason this channel exists, to hand you language for the parts of your mind no one else ever names. Now, sign 4, and this is the one that pays off the word in the title directly. You hold a boundary. You say no, or not now, or that doesn't work for me. And you say it once, plainly, without over-explaining it, without softening it with 3 apologies first, without performing guilt for the crime of having a limit. To a certain kind of person, that lands as pure entitlement. Who does she think she is? He acts like the rules don't apply to him, and here's the mechanism underneath their reaction, because it isn't random. For a lot of people, the only time they have ever watched someone hold a line that flatly, without flinching, it genuinely was superiority. That's the only file they have for it. They don't yet own a category called boundary, without ego attached. So they reach for the nearest one they've got, and the nearest one is arrogance. That's not their fault exactly, and it was never yours. A boundary held without apology only looks like looking down on you to someone who has never once watched a person keep their self-respect and their kindness in the same hand at the same time. You were doing something they didn't have a word for, so they used the wrong one. Sign 5. You notice things. The half-second hesitation before someone answers. The thing that slipped out sideways versus the thing they carefully chose to say. The gap between the mood on their face and the words coming out of their mouth. And most of the time, you don't even mention it. It just moves across your own expression that you clocked it, and they see that you saw. And a certain person hates that. They decide you think you've got them figured out. They feel judged, weighed, quietly filed, when the truth is, you weren't scoring them at all. You were just running a more detailed read of the room than they are used to receiving. Because your attention naturally takes in the whole picture before it responds to any one part of it. Here's the uncomfortable little engine underneath it. Being accurately seen, one beat before you were ready to be seen, feels almost identical to being condescended to. The body can't always tell the two apart. So your accuracy, which was never aimed at them, gets received as a verdict that was never passed. You held up a mirror you didn't even mean to hold up, and they blamed the mirror for what was in it, which brings us to the one that unsettles people the most. Sign 6. You can sit in a room that does not particularly like you and be completely fine, not performing fine, actually fine. You don't need the room to approve of you in order to feel okay being in it, and you can go home afterward and not replay a single thing anyone thought. To someone whose sense of their own worth is built out of other people's approval, nothing on earth is more destabilizing than that. And I want to be precise about why, because this is the deepest one on the list. Most social life runs on an invisible trade. You validate me, I validate you, and we both leave feeling a little steadier than we came. Approval is the currency, and whoever can hand it out or withhold it holds a quiet kind of leverage over everyone who wants it. That's the game. It's running under almost every interaction, mostly beneath the level anyone would admit. You're not playing, not out of contempt for the players, You were simply never built to need the thing being traded, so the pressure that moves most people just passes through you and finds nothing to grab. The disapproval, the raised eyebrow, the subtle signal that you should shrink to fit. None of it lands because none of it has a handle on you. And to a person who lives on that currency, someone it doesn't work on looks like the most arrogant thing they've ever encountered. Here's the part worth holding on to, though. It's structurally the least arrogant thing on this list. Arrogance is a claim you make against other people, a way of standing above them. Not needing the room's approval makes no such claim. It doesn't ask anything of anyone. It is the quietest thing in the building, and it gets called the loudest name. Now I have to stop and say the thing most videos like this will never say to you, because flattering you all the way to the end would be easier. None of this is a permanent pass. It is not a certificate that says you never have to look at yourself again, because Jung documented the other version too. He was too honest not to. In the same work, he described what happens when this temperament stops growing and curdles in on itself. The introverted thinking type, taken too far, he wrote, becomes more unsympathetic, turns personal and surly, and starts to burst out with vicious personal retorts against every criticism, however just. And then the line that should keep all of us honest. Thus, his isolation gradually increases. He said the feeling version can sour the same way, that the deep inner power can degrade into what he bluntly called a banal and overweening desire to dominate, into vanity and despotic bossiness. That is real. It's not this video's subject, but it's real, and pretending it isn't would be doing you a disservice. So here is the honest line to walk. If you never offer warmth first, never check in on anyone, never let a single person past arm's length, and you've quietly decided the whole species just isn't worth the effort, then some of what you're calling rareness is not rareness. It's a muscle you stopped using, and it's worth building back, the same way anyone works on a skill they let go slack. The difference between that person and the 6 signs you just heard is not a personality quiz. It's one question, and you already know the honest answer for yourself. Are you avoiding people, or are you just refusing to perform for them? Those two look identical from across the room. They feel nothing alike from the inside. Hold that question. Then let me show you the 7th sign, because it's the one the whole title was really pointing at. Sign 7. When you're alone, you feel everything. Fully, in high resolution, more than you have ever let most people see. The grief that arrives a week late and twice the size. The beauty of an ordinary Tuesday that stops you in the kitchen. The whole weather system of other people's moods that you've been quietly absorbing all day. It's all in there, and it's enormous, and you almost never show anyone the true size of it. Not because you're hiding. Because it was never meant to be a performance for the people who kept getting it wrong anyway. Jung, describing this inner life, wrote something I want you to actually hear. For him, he said, self-communings are a pleasure. His own world is a safe harbor, a carefully tended and walled-in garden, closed to the public and hidden from prying eyes. His own company is the best. Read that again. Not a fortress built to keep feeling out. A garden, a living, cultivated private thing, kept back from the public precisely because there is so much growing in it. And from the outside, someone glances over that wall, sees only the wall, and calls you self-contained, aloof, like you don't need anyone. They've got it exactly backwards. The thing you were never short on was the feeling. What you ran out of years ago was any reason to prove it to an audience that had already made up its mind about you at the gate. So let's put all 7 on the table at once, because the real revelation was never any single one of them. It's what they have in common, the unfilled silence, the level response, the real question, the unapologetic boundary, the accurate read, the exemption from the approval game, the private garden. Line them up and look at what's underneath everyone, not 7 different flaws. One kind of mind described 7 different ways, by people whose entire method of reading a person is built out of signals you were never sending in the first place. You don't have 7 problems. You have 1 temperament, and 7 ordinary situations. Each showed the outside of it and reached for the same wrong word, and the people who reached for it mostly weren't being cruel. That's the part that finally lets you set it down. They read you with the only instrument they owned, and it was not built for your frequency, the way a radio tuned to the wrong band gives you static and swears the station is dead. The station was always broadcasting. They were just never on it. So the belief you've carried on the hard nights had it backwards. They didn't find you lacking. They ran the wrong test, got a reading of nothing, and you spent years believing the nothing. So hear all of it back, 1 line each, the way it actually was. The silence was never a verdict. It was you, still thinking. The steadiness was never contempt. It was the absence of a performance you were never going to give. The real question was never an interrogation. It was the one place you refused to fake the weather. The boundary was never entitlement. It was a line you held without asking anyone's permission to hold it. Noticing what people hid was never judgment. It was an accurate mirror they weren't ready to stand in front of. Not needing the room was never arrogance. It was the one transaction you were never signed up for. And the depth you never showed anyone was never an absence at all. It was a walled garden that was simply never for sale. None of this means you stopped growing the parts of you that genuinely needed. You heard the honest caveat. It means you stopped performing warmth as an apology for a mind that was never the problem in the room. You're not arrogant. You're just fluent in something most people never learn to read. Of the 7, tell me which one gets you called arrogant the most. Just comment the number. I read them, and the pattern in your answers usually tells me exactly what to make next. And if you want that next one now, it's already forming on the people who read a room accurately and then get blamed for what they saw, the ones who become the problem simply for noticing it first. Thank you for watching. See you in the next dimension. Empaths aren't broken. They're alchemists in progress. The Alchemist's Path gives you drills, Jung-based boundaries, and 3 exclusive chapter videos to turn overwhelm into clarity. By Surreal Mind, 236-page downloadable ebook in stock. Begin now at thesurrealmind.com.